envoys reaching, in particular, some areas which, as you know, have been identified as besieged and identified by also the various international documents. We have not been able, we have not been able to reach so far Douma, Daraya, East Arasta, and we need to do more to Madamia, Zabadani, Kefraya, and Fua. Sorry, Madam, I've just been reminded that your patience needs to be taken into account. Thank you.
مساء الخير. أنا اليوم وحدي لا يشغلني السيد إيجلاند وهو نائب لديه وظيفة ثانية، طبعا هو مستشاري الخاص، ولكن لديه وظيفة ثانية وهي يرأس عددا من هذه الاجتماعات، ولكن في هذه المرة رأست أنا بنفسي الاجتماع وسوف يأتي السيد إيجلاند في الأسبوع القادم. لا يمكنني أن أنكر أن الكل شعر اليوم أثناء الاجتماع بخيبة الأمل بل وبالإحباط لأن القوافل المساعدات الإنسانية الجديدة لا تصل إلى المناطق المحاصرة، خاصة تلك المناطق التي تم تحديدها علنا وأيضا في الصفوف الدولية، فلم تصل القوافل لا إلى دوما ولا دارية ولا حرستا ولا معطمية ولا كفاية.
Enfua, yes. Yeah. That doesn't mean, and I recognize it, and we did raise it, that meanwhile the picture should not be completely negative in the sense that while we have to and we must insist on reaching these hard to reach or certainly besieged areas, there is still a lot happening in Syria because sometimes we tend to forget it. So we did a little bit of a review, and there are 5.8 million Syrian people who are being reached by the UN, NGOs who are doing remarkable work as well, and of course in some places the government as well, in the areas controlled by the government, every month by food. 5.8 million Syrians. 1 million Syrians are being reached in February and January with non-food items. And 6.8 million have been reached by every month for assistance on water and sanitation. But that doesn't take away what I just said at the beginning. Disappointment, frustration indeed, particularly in this period where we are expecting incremental improvement of reaching places which are besieged, and therefore the possibility by the task force to actually suggest, as they've been discussing, to reaching the issue at a higher level as a wake-up call in order to make sure that we don't just passively during these meetings just acknowledge the fact that there are no improvements. We need improvement. Some good news. Yes.
وقد تمكنا من الوصول إلى بعض المناطق وهناك إنجازات تحدث بالفعل. مثلا الأمم المتحدة والمنظمات غير الحكومية تمكنت من توصيل المساعدات الإنسانية إلى 5.8 مليون سوري، والحكومة أيضا توصل هذه المساعدات إلى السكان الذين هم تحت سيطرتها، وعلى أي حال في شكل مواد غذائية. وهناك مليون سوري تم توصيل المساعدات الإنسانية لهم في شهر فبراير، وكانت هذه المساعدات مساعدات غير غذائية، و6.8 مليون سوري شهرياً.
You're watching TRT World, bringing you a live press conference from Geneva, where the UN Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, is briefing the press following the second round of peace talks in Syria, which are currently taking place in Geneva. There's a slight break every now and again for the translation, as I'm sure you understand. But let's listen back in to see what Staffan de Mistura has to say.
Thank you. Some good news, because we need to see the angle from every angle. Deir el-Zor, airdrops. World Food Programme has been able to succeed with 3 airdrops in succession. And the last one today, 26 pallets, which have all reached Deir el-Zor. And the distribution is likely to start through SARC very soon. The next airdrops are also likely to include not only food items but medical items, which are very much needed in the area. So far, 55 tons have been airdropped by the World Food Programme airplane. This is quite encouraging, but also, in my opinion, if I may, since I've been doing airdropping myself in my life, quite an achievement in view of the technical problems, but also quite a beautiful combination of what international cooperation should be, because they've been assisted by, practically, by Canada, US, Russian Federation, working together with items and technical support, and then through contribution from Italy, Netherlands, United Kingdom, just to mention some who have been financially supporting that. That's WFP airdrops in Deir el-Zor. Another element that has been coming up with some type of hope, we believe, is the issue that I raised with the government of Syria about vaccinations. Vaccinations are expected to start on the 24th of April. We hope that that will be the case because there were some technical reasons why they appeared to be very delayed, and that would have been very bad because the Syrian people need to see for their own children, wherever they are, the possibility of having this campaign of vaccination in view of the reduction of the coverage and on the fact that regardless what we have been hearing in terms of tense moments in some parts of the country, the cessation of hostilities is still holding and therefore should be allowing the vaccination and therefore no excuse for not doing it. 24th of April. On Palmyra, yes, I am terrible today. I am terrible. And I really apologize. No, thank you.
Stefan de Mistura there, just stopping to allow the translation as he gives a press briefing in Geneva. He's the UN Special Envoy to Syria. Second round of peace talks are taking place this week in Switzerland, and as you can see, Stefan de Mistura there's just briefing the press on the latest, really. He's given some bad news and good news in his own words so far, saying that everyone is disappointed by the lack of humanitarian aid convoys making their way into certain parts of Syria, particularly Douma and Daraya. But on a more positive, he did say that airdrops have reached the towns of Deir el-Zor, which he described as an encouraging achievement and a great sign of international cooperation. And he also says that vaccinations across the country are set to start on April the 24th. There's just a little break as the translation takes place, but let's listen back in to see what else Stefan de Mistura has to say.
الذي سوف تبدأ حملة التلقيح في 24 من أبريل نيسان. وكانت هناك أسباب فنية للتأخير، ولكن ينبغي أن يرى السوريين أن أطفالهم يمكن أن يحصلوا على هذا التحسين وهذا التمنيع بغض النظر عن التوترات التي قد تحدث هنا وهناك، فإن الهدنة لا تزال قائمة وبالتالي لا مبرر لعدم توصيل هذه التلقيحات إلى الشعب السوري.
Thank you. On the Palmyra, there is obviously an important signal that the international community wants to give in order to make sure that this unique place, important for the whole world, is restored as soon as possible in terms, at least in terms of security. So there has been some updates on the demining, which has already been done by the Russian Federation, but also the possibility, and we had a briefing from UNMAS, the UN organization specialized in demining, on how they can be actually contributing to demining. This time I've been short.
بالنسبة لموضوع التدمر فبالطبع المجتمع الدولي يود أن يعطي إشارة واضحة بأن هذا المكان تدمر مكان فريد من نوعه ينبغي أن يرم وينبغي أن يعاد الأمن إليه. فهناك عمليات كسح الألغام تتم حاليا بمساعدة الاتحاد الروسي وربما أيضا أنماس وهي خدمة الأمم المتحدة لإزالة الألغام قد تسهم في هذه العمليات.
Thank you. The issue of medical items was raised by me in Damascus, and was obviously discussed again here in the task force. I did raise the issue with the authorities, and they assured me that they were going to henceforth allow all medical items except the following: surgical items, atropine, and anxiety pills, but would allow, at our own request, cesarean surgical items, and all other medical items. We, of course, need to go through that, and I hope that what I got as a promise will actually materialize, and therefore that we can be able to at least report on that. We are still concerned about surgical items, which are not just military use, but they can be and should be used for children, for instance, which happen to be falling through the rubble of an incident and would require this.
هناك مسألة ثانية أيضا ذكرناها مع الحكومة وبالطبع أيضا في فريق المهام هو موضوع المستلزمات الطبية. فأكدت لي الحكومة والسلطات السورية أنهم سوف يسمحوا بكل المواد الطبية باستثناء المواد أو المستلزمات الجراحية والأتروبين والأدوية لمعالجة القلق.
You're watching TRT World. This is the UN Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, giving a press conference in Geneva. He has to stop every now and again for a translation to take place. He's briefing a room full of journalists, as you can see, updating them on the progress that's been made on the humanitarian issue, which is really the main focus of the talks this week, the second round of talks, saying that he hopes the number of medical supplies will be allowed into the country as promised. Let's listen into what else he has to say.
You probably will remember the last time by Jan Egeland there was a reference to the possibility or imminent possibility of a massive medical evacuation. In other words, up to 400, 500 people in need of medical evacuation from the 4 towns in particular. And that has not happened, and we regret it, and I do have a proposal for that.
تذكرون أنه في المرة السابقة السيد إيجلاند أشار إلى إمكانية القيام بعملية إخلاء لأغراض طبية، إخلاء حوالي 400 إلى 500 شخص من المدن الأربعة، ولكن حتى الآن هذا لم يحدث مع الأسف.
There seems to have been too much of a concentration of reciprocity. You have someone sick and you have someone sick, we then evacuate one another. But that's not how life, God, things happen. People sometimes get sick, like this young man of 18 years old who died because we could not be able to medically evacuate him. And the other side may not have the same case of medical emergency. So the proposal is, if you do have a case of medical emergency, allow that to be evacuated. And when one will be on the other side, that would be at least equivalent. In theory, we should never discuss this type of things. It is a duty to do that. But if this is all blocked by reciprocity, let's at least have a much more creative reciprocity for the sake of saving lives.
مع الأسف هناك تركيز على المعاملة بالمثل والمبادلة، ولكن هذا أمر ليس واقعي. مثلا شاب عمره 18 سنة مات لأننا لن نتمكن من أن نأخذه إلى المستشفى من خلال عملية إخلاء طبي، فقد يكون هناك حالة طبية طارئة في طرف وقد لا تكون موجودة في الطرف الآخر، وبالتالي طلبنا أن يتم السماح للحالات الطارئة بأن تخرج لأسباب طبية، وإذا ما حدثت نفس الحالة في الطرف الآخر يمكن أن يسمح لها. بالشكل الطبيعي هذه الأمور لا يمكن التفاوض حولها لأن هذا واجب، ولكن مع الأسف ينبغي أن نبتكر الحلول.
In fairness to my visit to Damascus, the government of Syria indicated to me their complaint that there is no indication often in our meetings about all what they are doing for humanitarian assistance to the average Syrian people. And I said to them, fine, do produce a paper every week or every meeting that we have. We will certainly acknowledge it, recognize it, study it, but does not take away the urgency for reaching those people that we have mentioned in the besieged areas and all those issues that are still pending, such as the medical aspect.
A number of issues being discussed then by the UN Special Envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, there in Geneva. The second round of talks well and truly underway. The focus really the humanitarian situation. Well, let's cross to Zaina Awa, TRT World's correspondent, who is there in Geneva, who's been listening in. Zaina, what sort of tone do you think Staffan de Mistura struck there? Was he happy with the way things were going, or frustrated, would you say?
Well, Paul, I think Mr. de Mistura wanted to relay the message that while he recognizes that people are disappointed, everyone is disappointed in his words, there have been improvements that have taken place. And he went at great lengths to actually highlight what these improvements and these, in some cases, accomplishments that have taken place to alleviate the humanitarian situation on the ground. He says that there have been 55 tons of aid dropped on Syria, and that 5.5 million Syrians have been reached by the United Nations inside the country. In addition, he says NGOs have done great work, and he's even given credit to the Syrian government, to the Syrian regime. Now, he did acknowledge, however, that there are some areas that have been besieged that have still not been reached, and that includes Daraa and Medaya. Now, you might remember these two because we had seen scenes of starvation, of hunger in both of them. So his tone was definitely more balanced than his tone yesterday on Wednesday, when he actually came out and flat out contradicted the HNC, the High Negotiation Committee's assessment of the situation. So it's quite a balanced assessment, really, that he's given.
OK, Zaina, thank you very much for the update. We'll be back to Zaina in a couple of minutes here on TRT World as we bring you the latest headlines from around the world and the latest on those talks in Geneva. They're coming up next.